Welcome to the Jobs and Work podcast. If you're like most Americans, you spend a significant amount of your time working. In fact, we spend more time at our jobs than anywhere else. But how often do we really talk about work in America? On this podcast, the Work for Change team will. Work for Change, LLC is a team of social scientists, thought leaders, and digital storytellers who dig into the critical issues affecting American workers and workplaces today. Our podcast is co-hosted by Dr. Kendra Jason and myself, Dr. Chris Maycumber. We'll also bring guests onto the show who reflect the diversity of the American workforce. We are so excited for you to join us as we lead the efforts to humanize the workplace by building dignity and equity into jobs, work, and organizations. Please subscribe to the podcast and share us with your friends and family. You can learn more about Work for Change at workforchangellc.com. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Jobs and Work podcast, where we talk about all things related to jobs and work. This is episode number 20, and it is Small Business Friday. And I'm your co-host, Chris Maycumber.
And I'm co-host Kendra Jason. And today we have small business owner Marlo Prioleau. And Marlo is going to talk to us about his business, the Velocity Education Group. So welcome to our podcast, Marlo.
Yes, thank you for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So just a little bit of background on Marlo before he jumps into his talk about his business. So Marlo is a graduate of South Carolina State University. He got his master's in business administration from the University of Phoenix. He spent several years in corporate America, really putting his attention on disadvantaged youth and helping guide them towards college. And so he started the Velocity Education Group in 2013. And so I really just want to start our conversation, Marlo, just by, can you tell us about Velocity Education Group and what motivated you to start this business?
Wow, I listened to the bio. I said, is that me? But yeah, those are the things that I've done, right? Yeah. We've been working at this business for a long time. And, really what prompted me to start the business and to go into it was I was not the college bound, typical college bound student. I had a horrible high school career, academic wise. I was in some of the lowest level courses. I flew under the radar on purpose. I missed all my guidance counselor appointments, and I just wasn't motivated to achieve in school because of the environment that I was living in. When you grow up in the 80s, and you're trying to survive the crack era, and there's a lot of guns and violence, and drugs and things like that being sold in your neighborhood, and you're just trying to figure out, what is my next move? What's going to be the thing that is going to set me apart from everybody else? How am I going to get to that next rung of success in life? But, when you walk into the bus stop and you're seeing all these different things, and it's music late night and it's gunshots late night, and, your friends are, going through these horrible atrocities, you don't really care about school. It's really hard to go to school and make an A when you didn't eat last night and everybody's asking you, what's wrong? And you got so many things in your head that you're thinking about. So as I matriculated, through high school, having the career that I had, I ended up going to college, and immediately when I graduated, I knew there's got to be a way that I can reach back into the community and help those, roses that are trying to grow through the cement like me, because so many kids in our community have the mental capacity and the aptitude, but don't always have the roadmap and have the way. So, that's really what motivated me, just knowing and understanding my own story, and knowing for a fact that there are so many people just like me who are just looking for somebody to just come out, put their arms around me and say, hey, you know what? You can make it. You can succeed. You can do it. I know you have the capacity. I know you have the aptitude. Let's take this walk together, put together some road mapping, give them some tools and some resources to succeed. And that's all I wanted to do. That was just my number one goal. At no point throughout my corporate career did I ever think I would not work in the community and try to get out, and give kids a chance and give individuals an opportunity to be successful. So it was always something I knew I would do. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know, where it was going to start or take place, but I just knew at some point I was going to jump out, and make that switch and do something education related.
That is such a fascinating story. In terms of knowing that you didn't have it all figured out or know when it was going to happen or how it was going to happen, but you knew you were eventually going to get there. But at a certain point you made that jump. So can you talk us through like what that jump was like? And, because for some people, they see what you're doing now and they know what you used to be doing, but I'm sure there was a lot of steps in between. So what was that process like to make that leap?
Yeah, and the reason I founded the organization and called it Velocity Education Group, because as I was growing up and going through different things, I always said it takes a village to raise a child, and that's part of what I talk about, in my book. So having mentors, leaning on people throughout the years, asking a lot of questions, but starting a business is probably one of the hardest things that you will ever do. You're going to question yourself. You're going to worry, am I doing this for the right reason? Am I going to make enough money? Are all these things going to fall in place and fall in line, so that I can actually do what I need to do? But, when I first was working in corporate America, initially right around 12, 13, and I decided to, step out, people said, man, you're crazy. You're going to do what? You're going to leave a job, and start a business? Like, come on, the economy is crazy. And, all these different things are going on. But at the end of the day, no matter what happens, I'm the kind of person, I'm internally motivated, and I'm always going to bet on myself. At the end of the day, I'm going to bet on myself. You absolutely have to position yourself to win. You have to study everything, read everything, shake every hand, leave no stone unturned, get, and really position yourself to move in the direction you want to move in. So, when you start thinking about trying to take that leap and do it, it is scary. And even if you have to work, I worked a security job once. I was going to work 11 to 7 at night, sitting in my truck with a magnet sign on the side, making sure people didn't steal refrigerators, out of the house, because I have that old school work ethic. It doesn't matter. Whatever I need to do, I'm going to do it so that I can try to, reach my goal and get done what I needed to get done. So, those were some of the things that we went through, early on trying to figure this out. But, I'm so glad that we turned the corner, we're here, we get opportunities like this, to come on and speak with great organizations about what it is that we do.
That's great.
I love that you said or acknowledged even within yourself that you haven't had a great work ethic, because I think that's something that's really missed in young people who seem to be distracted or have gone astray. Just because they're not following the path that you envision for them doesn't mean that they're not investment worthy. They don't have a good work ethic. They just haven't found their niche yet, or found that guidance. And so you mentioned your book, I Ain't Going to College, A Guide for Life After High School. And what I really love about this book, Marlo, and I'm assuming, or I'm sure this was a part of your marketing or to make it accessible, it's a light read. It's easy, it's digestible. So I'm thinking, as you're, trying to relate to these young men and women who are at this possible crossroads, a lot of times, academics and professionals give them these heavy, dense readings or something that they can't relate to. Your book isn't anything like that. So can you take a moment to just talk about your book and how you use it in relationship to your small business?
Yeah, absolutely. The book itself and the curriculum, is the small business. I mean, it really, everything, kind of operates on that. That's the cornerstone of what founded the organization. And, I'm extremely proud of it because, I stand here today as a F English student, who's took an English course that you had to tear the pages out in a workbook and, hand it in to your teacher. But I get to go back to my school, as a published author with, my book and curriculum that's moving around throughout the entire country. So, when I take a step back and look at it in that breath, it's just an amazing thing, because in the third grade, Miss Snow told me to write an essay, and I'll never forget it. I wrote this essay and it was very descriptive. And she said, you have a great descriptive writing finger. You keep that up. And I never, ever, ever forgot that. And so, when I think about the book and I think about where I've come with the book, being a writer and writing is always something that has been a part of me. It's been in me, I just didn't know it. And I think that's what's going on, with a lot of our young people, especially individuals that come out of the inner city, come from those urban areas. Something great is within you. It's inside of you. You don't know what it is yet, but you have to keep going, stay positive, stay on a good track, and allow those things to develop. Because as you're moving along your path of life, other people are going to look at you and they're going to see something in you that you don't see in yourself.
Right.
Because, throughout the course of me writing the book and putting the book together, I thought back on the times when I was moving through the streets, doing things that I shouldn't be doing. And, it was a time where I really wanted to sell drugs like hardcore. And I just said, this is what I want to do. And, I had a conversation with a guy, and the guy looked at me and he said, man, you need to get out of here. This is not your life.
Right.
You're too smart for this. You're too good for this. There's something about this that's not for you. So I still moved in that arena a little bit, but there were people who were watching out for me that I didn't even know were watching out for me. That's why whenever I hear the phrase, somebody's going to see something in you that you don't see in yourself, it's odd, but it took a street guy to see something in me that I didn't see in myself, even at that time. So when I started putting the book together, you talk about it being a light read. Well, what I wanted to do, as someone who's worked with youth over the course of the years, I wanted it to be entertaining, educational, and motivational. Okay. Because first of all, who wants to read? Okay. Let's be honest. We talking about, people from impoverished communities. Nobody's reading, not even adults. I'll put anybody on the spot. If I'm an adult, on a mass scale, who's read, more than 2 books, in the past 6 months, okay, the pool is going to get real limited. Right. So everything I did with the book from start to end, had a real meaning. I wrote it with, different things in mind, being in the right place at the right time, understanding how to manage your time, understanding that education is important and that it is a cornerstone in life. No matter how you educate yourself, the importance is educating yourself and having a plan for your life after high school. That's what it's all about. And it absolutely has to revolve around education. People will argue the fact that, well, college is not for everybody. I disagree. I think there's a college for everybody, but you have to find the right situation for yourself, whether that's an HVAC program. I argued with a young lady a couple of weeks ago. She said, I'm not going to college, I'm going to hair school. I said, well, are you going to study? Well, yeah, I'm going to study. I said, you going to take a test? You going to get certified? She said, yeah, they're going to certify me. Well, congratulations. You found a college that was good for you. So it's all about, retooling the mind, going back and just thinking about it from a different perspective. Okay. But if we don't have some education under our belt, something of some sort, we will absolutely be left behind, especially as we continue to trend towards this online virtual world and this revolution.
That is such great advice, Marlo. And what I've learned from what you just said too is, as someone who's really captured by storytelling, you are a very powerful storyteller. You told 3 different short stories in that whole piece. And at one point I had chills when you said that guy said to you, this isn't the life for you. And when the teacher told you you were a very descriptive writer, sometimes it just takes a moment of inspiration to just kind of turn someone to make that little pivot that they planted a seed in you. And I guess, so that's sort of like a comment. The question is, how, are you intentional about using stories in your approach? Because I would think that the stories you tell about your experiences can grip young people. They can see themselves in you, right? And is that something that you do intentionally?
Man, Chris, that is so interesting that you pick up on that point, because I love to tell stories, because ironically, my life, is just life is a series of stories, I feel like, for everyone, and some people, when they sit down and write a book, I've worked with several folks and coached them on how to write their book. And they say, well, I don't want to tell stories. I'm not a storyteller. I want it to flow and be this way. Life is a series of moments that are stories strung together, from the past up into the present.
Just gave me chills again. I love this.
So, thank you. But so that was the whole point. My book itself, it's 21 lessons, okay? And it's 21 lessons, 21 chapters, 21 stories about things that I've been through. What was the importance of it? What did I learn from it? How can I tie it back to education? And then I also get into the social emotional learning model, and I kind of incorporate some of those pieces into it. Mm-hmm. So that's what makes it, such a great read, because here's what I know about young people. Number one, we don't want to read. And I don't have anything against, Macbeth and against, all the classics that you have to read, Tom Sawyer and all those things in school. But I wanted to give and put out a project that was going to be motivational, educational, but also entertaining. So you get to read, about a young guy growing up in the neighborhood who's trying to figure out if he's going to college or not, if he want to sell crack or not, if he want to, survive and live the right path or not, if he want to go in a grocery store, and stuff this steak down in front of his pants and try to walk out or not, just because he's trying to find a way to continue to feed his family. So, you're reading all of these different things. And the moral of the story, I really wrote the book because I figured at the end of the day, I was talking to some students, some of my high school students, because I used to be a teacher. And the kid, I asked him, I said, man, what are you going to do when you graduate? My adult teacher voice. He said, I ain't going to college, bro. That's not really my thing. And I used to say the same thing. But what happens is when somebody asks you a question, if you don't have the answer, fear and rejection are the two number one answers that you run to as by default. You don't ask somebody to answer to a question and they don't know it and they give you a stellar answer. It's fear. Fear kicks in by default. Yeah. So I already knew these guys are scared, they're afraid, they're nervous, because those are the same feelings and anxieties that I felt 20 years ago when people would ask me, what are you going to do when you graduate high school? I don't know. I ain't going to college. That's not my thing, because that seemed to be the natural trend and natural pattern. So when I was putting the book together, I was driving home one day, literally from teaching high school the same day. And I said, man, I got to do something to have more of an impact, because I can stand in front of 200 and then go home. Somebody's going to get it. Somebody's not. Right. But if I write this down, if I write it down and I put it in a format, in a medium that's understandable, easily digestible, I can impact the world. Yep. And I honestly believed that as I was driving home. And I got home and I started writing this book, and I knew immediately the title is I Ain't Going to College. That's it. And, once we got started, people said, man, small business owners and people who write books, self-published authors, they don't make a lot of money and you don't sell a lot of books in your first year. The first week I wrote the book, a high school contacted me and ordered 200 copies. Oh. And it's just, I always talk about that, as a testament to let people know that no matter what, you absolutely have to follow your dream and do the thing that you think is right for you, no matter what. Don't ever worry about the outcome. If you do what's on your heart to be done, don't worry about the outcome. The outcome, will happen, and whatever needs to happen, the universe will speak and it will take place. But you absolutely have to just follow your heart and just do what you think is the right thing to do. And, that book, I know for a fact it's changing lives, all over the country, as well as my online course.
Yeah, so we talk a lot to and with small business owners, but a lot of curious and potential business owners, and a lot of them have hesitancy and other insecurities. And I want you just briefly, you started in 2013 with your education group. And from my understanding, it basically started as a mentorship program. How has it grown over the years? Like, what is it that Velocity does, like in your daily operations, that has grown over these years?
Yeah, that's a great question, because we always wanted to be community based, and just rooted in doing the right thing for the people. So Velocity Education Group is an education consulting group, and our number one goal is to make sure that middle school and high school students are prepared for life after high school. That is our goal. We want to make sure that once you walk across that stage, you have a plan for your life. You have a very good idea and know and understand, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And these are the resources and the tools I'm going to use to be successful while I'm there. Not only do I have the tools and the resources, but these are the people who can help me while I'm on a journey if I begin to have questions and if I begin to get tripped up. So, what we want to do is be there, as a resource. mentoring has always been a big part of what we do, and we'll always do that. We constantly, reach out to individuals and have these types of, singular conversations. So Velocity Education Group is the subgroup underneath the Prioleau Educational Services. Okay. We have two core products. We have our book, which is I Ain't Going to College, a guide to life after high school. And then we have our online virtual course. We're founding an online university for soft skills. And in our online university, we have our first course, which is Preparing for Life After High School. Preparing for Life After High School is loosely based off of the book, I Ain't Going to College. It has a lot of the same concepts and principles, but you're going to get the additional videos, you're going to get, quizzes and things like that. So it's a full curriculum, and it's all about decision making, and really just planning your life, thinking about a series of stories, things from the beginning of where you started to where you are now, and how you can continue to move through life, and be successful. So those are two kind of, core flagship products. And we use those all over the country. We partner up with schools and organizations. We partner up with a lot of private organizations and nonprofits as well. We've done a lot of work with communities and schools, TRIO, several school systems, across the country as well. And we're really excited because when the students get this information in their hand, they're telling us, this is exciting. This is not like a book. This is, a different kind of story, but it's a college prep story. But what we did was we baked the entertainment and the education in, because if you stand up and have a meeting and say, hey, everybody, we're going to talk about preparing for life after high school, the floodgate's not going to open. Okay. This is not going to happen. Even if you have pizza, Coke, floodgate is not going to happen. But if you tell a riveting story about a guy growing up in the 80s, and he's trying to maneuver through life and figure all these things out, you can pull the kids in, you can get their attention, then you can start the college process. Then you can start talking about the awareness. Then you can start to talk about the road mapping and, what to do in the 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, how to position yourself, and et cetera. So, that was the whole model. Everything was done on purpose, and by design. Right. And we feel like that's why we're seeing the success that we're seeing.
Right. So what was it like with COVID? Like, how did you all have to adjust with your outreach and programming? If everything was mostly online, did that limit what you were able to do? Or did, for some small businesses, it actually broadened who they could work with, because now there's no geographic constraint. So what was that like for you all?
COVID for us was great, because similar to what we're doing right now, again, I'm an old school guy. Back in the days, what do? You drive around. I go to high school. I knock on the doors. I ask to speak to principals. I wait 30 minutes. I get in. I got 10 minutes with the principal, and, et cetera, et cetera. So being able to move in this capacity, in this format, has definitely opened a lot of doors. But from a product standpoint, everything happens for a reason. I worked in the online education sector for a number of years. I worked for some of the largest education companies, in the country. So eventually I knew I wanted to put together a virtual offering of some sort for myself, and, kind of add that to my product line. And right around March, April, actually, we launched the virtual online school, the Prioleau Educational Institute, launched around November, December, of last year. So we were right on trend, because people were coming to us saying, hey, now that these kids are going to be at home, we're looking for additional curriculum and things that they can do that may be more hybrid. Maybe it has an instructor, maybe it has a facilitator, maybe it's self-paced. And, lo and behold, our product, was a perfect match for that, because whether the teacher's standing in the classroom and they have the information up in front of them, everybody has their Chromebook or, device out, or they're looking at on their phone and they're reading the material and having conversation. That's great. But you can also turn it on, little Johnny's, maybe he's unfocused today. He need to do something different. He gets the link, he logs in himself, signs in, and he can go self-paced, read the material, answer the questions, take the quizzes, watch the video, and kind of move at his own pace. So, like I said earlier, you never worry about the outcome. When you just do what you think is the right thing to do, then, the right things will happen.
Great.
So one thing that I think anybody would know who's watching this podcast right now is that Marlo is an excellent motivational speaker. He's given us a lot of nuggets. Marlo's information is down below. You can check out his website. You can email him directly. You can find his book and all of his services under Velocity Group or the larger enterprise of Marlo. What is it called, Marlo, again? What's the umbrella?
Yeah, Prioleau Educational Services, Velocity Education Group.
Yes, so please, look him up so that you can connect with Marlo, especially if you know a young person who is in transition, and just give them this resource. It's graduation time. This is an excellent time to pass this off as a gift. You can literally change someone's life or cause a ripple effect. Another way you can change your own life is we are offering through Work for Change, of course, our Starting Your Own Business workshop. It is in June. It's June 19th and 26th. It's a 2-part workshop. And what we do in that workshop is we help small aspiring business owners get started through a series of self-reflections and actually giving you the nuts and bolts to starting your own business. It's also great if you have a small business and you need to retool and you need to figure out where your business went left so we can get you back on track. And so please, you can find our information below. You can find us at work4change.llc.com. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and of course you found us here on YouTube. So please, again, like, subscribe, and share so we can work to make the world of work better.